Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. This is Doug Bruhnke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We intentionally connect exporters and investors to opportunities around the world, and specifically for exporters, direct them to clients and make introductions, warm introductions, and resources that we trust and know. And on the investment side, connecting investors to opportunities and those who have an opportunity to investors. That can be tricky across borders because you don't always know who you're dealing with, and what somebody who seems to be okay may not be okay. And so the intent of what Global Chamber is all about is to create a trusted place where we can intentionally connect people to strategic connections and for clients. And that's kind of cool. And it's cool from our perspective because when we see that connections are made and businesses built, it's really fun and it's exciting. It's also really amazing to meet some people who really know global business. Bill Edwards is in the call today and he knows global business really well. He's much more experienced than I. I only have, I think, about 38 years of global business experience. That I work. So I've got 45 years of work experience after college. That's even less than Bill. He's at 50, and his fraction of that's international is higher than my 38. And I think, like both of us, we enjoy global business. We've had some level of success. Bill, amazing success with international business across a lot of different market segments, across all sorts of places in the world, living in different places. And since we thought that it would be good periodically, and we do this event every month, to at least let's get a sample of what's going on in the world. What are we seeing? And let's make some sense of it. There's nobody better than Bill to be able to do that for us because he's got the background, he's got the daily connection to new information, both through his work and helping clients grow internationally and through his role with the District Export Council and with other roles that he has that allows him to see the inside and be able to understand not only what I was going to say, not only what's in the news, which is almost always wrong in some way, but to actually see what's actually going on. And then to analyze it, to be able to determine, okay, so that's really the story. Okay, so what does that mean? What are the implications for my clients and for others doing business around the world? So, Bill, thank you for sorting through all of that so expertly, and then to be able to take that information, as good or bad as it is, and sort through to make general observations, and then also for your clients, specific recommendations based on that gray part of how good or bad is something, how risky or not is something. These are not black and white always. There's a lot of gray involved, and that's where the human brain, it can be so powerful. Thanks, Bill, for having such a powerful human brain. Thanks for taking the time to spend with us today. What are you seeing around the world right now?
Wow, I think you really set me up there, Doug. I don't know that I can do all those things that you said, but uh, my job is to help U.S. and international franchises expand into new countries. So we're daily monitoring about 40 sources of information to determine what's going on in various countries from an economic and political standpoint. And nowadays, that's pretty well, whatever's happening in the countries is pretty well overridden by what's happening in the Oval Office in the United States, I'm afraid. Uh, and that is far more difficult to predict. Uh, the key, as you know, Doug, because you attended our District Exports Council's 11th annual Orange County World Trade Week event here in Irvine last week is the uncertainty that we have, because business people, once they have a set of parameters, they figure out a way to work with them. But right now we have a lot of uncertainty. It's just when we think we've got things figured out, the ball game changes for us. And that's the biggest challenge I hear all over the world. I was talking to a group in Australia yesterday evening, and they're seeing the same thing. They're whatever is going on with trade policy is making it is causing uncertainty. And when you have uncertainty, people tend to pull back and not make decisions. Make the investment decisions. So there's a lot of that happening all over the world right now, and it's unfortunately caused by the United States. I don't have a solution for that, Doug. Please don't ask me to have a solution for that. The key is constantly monitoring what's going on and keeping that in perspective with your current business and your business opportunities. There's no lack of business opportunities worldwide. It's still as strong as ever. No matter what anybody says, globalization is still there. And there's still opportunities for cross-border business. But the challenge is figuring out what the parameters are going to be. There's some indication that by mid-summer, summer in the Northern Hemisphere, we'll have a little bit more clarity. But that's not a guarantee, because things change quite often in the U.S. Oval Office, unfortunately, which impacts our markets and impacts our psychology as far as making new investments. The key is monitoring what's going on. That's just, to me, is great. The best thing to do. Last week when you were at our event, you saw an update on what's happening with the ports of Los Angeles and LA and Long Beach, with the shipments coming or not coming from China. That has a big impact. Those two ports, by the way, are responsible for 40% of all goods and services, goods that come in and out of the United States. So monitoring the number of ships and the number of containers coming in and out of those two ports is a way to determine what's happening with global trade, especially trade with Asia. So the key is monitoring as many sources as you can. I do not recommend the network news because they're not really focused on business. But there are resources. As you know, we have a biweekly Global Business Update newsletter, but there are a lot of other sources. My two biggest sources that are public are the Financial Times and the Economist magazine. Those are two really, really good sources of fairly unbiased information, but they do a lot of analysis. As you know, Doug, I like charts and graphs because people understand those. And those two publications are really good at analyzing what's happening and putting it into a graphic representation that humans can easily understand.
Your work, tell us a little bit more about the types of businesses that you're typically involved with more directly. Certainly franchising is one area.
Well, we work entirely with proven business systems that we're exporting into other countries, and those are franchises. So restaurants, property management businesses, fitness concepts, senior care brands are becoming more and more desired around the world because I know, Doug, you don't really realize this, but we are getting older as a world. So food and beverage is still the #1 export of brands from the United States. People still want more hamburger brands for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but they do. But those brands are subject to trade issues because they deal with supply chain. Trying to get a supply of the best food into a country is not always easy. So supply chain is a huge challenge right now. But there are opportunities. The challenge is getting people to make investments right now. A lot of hesitancy in making investments because of uncertainty. I can't solve that problem. I can just tell you what's happening.
Anybody have any questions for Bill?
I have a question for the audience. We have worked all over the world, taking our brands into 35 countries, but the one area we do not have representation in and do not know well enough, considering the future of the world, is Africa. And we really would like to connect with people that are in Global Chamber in the major African markets to talk about, what might be good brands to bring them to their countries, and what the pluses and minuses are of bringing foreign brands into African countries. The Global Chamber is unique in the world. In my 51 years of international experience, it's the only true network in the world of people from all over the world that have one thing in common, and that is to do business better through connections. So I'm open to. I'll put my contacts in the chat, and I'd be open to hearing from GC people in those markets that we can interact with to talk about maybe doing business together, but at least finding out what's good for those markets, because that is the future of the world, Africa. It is the growth area, and it's the one area where the population is not getting older overall.
Yeah. Are there particular countries of highest interest?
Yes, there are. South Africa, Kenya, Ghana are countries that we think have potential for bringing foreign brands into. There are others, but Doug, the fact that I only named three shows my ignorance. I don't know the continent. And people from other countries, I'd love to hear from you and get your input, because I don't really know enough about Africa, and want to know more.
We don't have a good representation on Africa here today, so we'll definitely do that on the separately, and in those three and other countries.
Thank you.
Ildiko, are you able to say hi and to give your perspective on Europe? Oh, great, thank you. You're involved directly with trade daily, and what are you seeing from your side?
Yeah, it's actually regarding U.S. and Europe relationships. It's a quite difficult at the moment. Doesn't really seem the EU want to involve the trade talk at the moment properly. And the other side, if any business considering to set up a branch in the UK, they are the UK is signing up again with EU, so the trade agreements, it's coming for review in next year, but they start to easing the things up, and they agreed with the trade summit, with the UK EU summit last couple of weeks ago. They agreed to make easement about the goods movement. So it's probably just avoid the difficulties trading between the US and the EU. If someone's just set it up a branch in here, even I know the origin of the goods probably still same as US, but the paperwork and everything would be less barrier. So at the moment, this is what I know. I actually just get the full details of the papers, what they agreed, but I haven't read it yet through.
Well, what types of products and services, maybe more products, are you involved with?
It's firstly they agreed about the animal food and plant products as probably they discard the CHED, which is a common health certificate for both sides. So make things easier and make less cost for the businesses. And actually all the other things what is happened between the UK EU relations, the UK again extended the inspections what they plan to introduce in 1st of July this year. So they delayed until 2027 for the medium risk categories, plant, fruit, and everything what is coming from the EU.
Does anybody have any questions for Ildiko, please? Ildiko reminds me, Bill, of the 18 or 19, I guess 19 counting China deals that the U.S. is doing. I think there's only one, right? That's quote unquote done or basically done. Do you know what the status is and how important is that?
Actually, there are several done. It's just not really heavily publicized. When the president was in the Middle East, he signed 3 agreements with countries in the Middle East that were that's not really publicized a lot. Then you got the UK. There are 32 countries that have requested trade framework agreements. I think 18 are actively being negotiated at this point in time. The EU is separate from that, and because it's a group of countries, and I don't believe personally that we'll get that framework agreement by mid-July for the EU, but I believe that there will be one this summer. I think that both sides really need it, and the good news is that the actual people doing the negotiations are not as let me see if I can be diplomatic here, as they're not like the Oval Office. they're actually real solid negotiators trying to get things done.
Got it. Okay. So it sounds like there's some level of optimism that you have that these will be put in place.
Well, what they are, Doug, is they're not free trade agreements. They're called a framework agreement, which means these are the high level agreement, high level things that everybody's agreed to do, and then the work begins after that. But I think we're going to see. I think we'll see between 10 and 20 of those completed by July 8th. But they're framework agreements. They're not final trade agreements. Okay, but they will theoretically preclude the imposition of high tariffs, theoretically.
Okay. Preclude meaning that there'll be a mechanism to be able to reduce the tariffs.
Hopefully no more than 10% on most countries, but I don't think it'll go below 10%. I think that there's no way to back off of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think UK and US already one in place.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And that markedly doesn't impact things, does it? I mean, or are there particular areas where that does, like for instance, in semiconductor or automotive, where margins might be difficult, or there's products that are going back?
Certainly in the automotive section, the UK agreement is very beneficial to the UK. Yeah.
And that includes on the automotive side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
We have a long ways to go, though, right?
Yeah, still a long ways to go. Yeah, it wouldn't be easy, but yeah, it's just
one of the really this week, one of the more significant pieces of information and one of our webinars that I thought was just extraordinary was and I don't think, Bill, you were there, the one Brian Swords talked about in the Global Chamber Tokyo, where he talked about Japan and kind of the tale of two economies. One is the Japan economy inside the domestic economy, and then the international Japanese economy, which is really driving and fueling the success and growth. The foreign direct investment for Japan has gone from about 30 to 40 billion dollars in China to 3. And for the U.S., it's gone from during the years when Japan was could say no back in the early days when they had acquired Pebble Beach, and there was a big brouhaha of too much investment by Japan in the U.S. The investment was about $18 billion in those days, certainly less than 20. Now it's 60. And Brian was saying it's probably going to hit 100 next year, $100 billion. And so the amount of foreign direct investment by Japan has dropped very significantly in China and increased dramatically to the U.S. And it seems to be increasing from some other countries as well. Do you track some of that as well, Bill, in your activities?
We try to track that sort of thing, Doug, but it's constantly changing.
Yeah, and there's a time lag too. It makes it tricky to figure out.
There is a time lag. There's definitely a time lag. But again, I recommend the FT and the Economist as good sources of information that are usually very timely.
Super.
Hey, Doug, this is Pankaj. So we are working with this, but I think Japan is targeting 1 trillion by 2030, like 840 billion. So that is their target now for FDI. So they are now investing, I think last week with Brian. So we had a chat with Brian. So they are targeting 1 trillion, like 840 billion by 2030, foreign direct investment.
Total amount for all countries.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and his point on that was that with the U.S., they want to do more in the U.S. And they recognize one of the key data points was that 60% now, 60% of SMEs, small businesses in Japan, recognize the need and are open to going internationally. And so that's kind of huge. That's a huge development. I think it's just reality staring them in the face in terms of a shrinking country, and so you might as well go somewhere else. And so it's just that's a good reality of facing, and it's helping the world as well. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? This is we can wrap up and make it a 30-minute conversation and kind of move on from there. Does anybody else have anything? I see Tia has joined, and Aartii, thank you for joining again, and as you did the other day, I appreciate it. Whenever I call on Robert, he's not there, so we're not able to connect in. But Robert is part of a region around Baltimore, Washington area of data centers and technology and government services. And so thank you for what you're doing. Hey, you're there. Fantastic. How you've probably been really busy with Select USA.
I have both Select USA, the prep and the follow.
Got it. I bet. Yeah. So do you mind just kind of giving us an update on that and what you're doing?
Sure. Select USA this year had over 5,000 registrants from.
Can you put on your camera?
Yes.
Are you in a position to?
Yeah, hold on. Give me a minute.
You're not driving or anything, are you? Oh, thanks, Ann, for joining as well. Good to see you. We're just
Sorry, everyone. I was not in a private area. Can you hear me and now see me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So I say is every year, of course, and this year they had it in May instead of June. Not sure why, but there were over 5,000 participants, over 50 different booths, multiple countries. Pretty much every embassy that I'd be interested in hosted some sort of reception. I went to the Korea, the Japan, and the British one. The British one was held at the embassy, and it was all were good. The Germans, Irish, they all had their own receptions, but I could only hit so many, and they were all on the same night, Monday night. Tuesday night was state and local night, so they all have their own receptions, but it was good. The follow-up is intense, I got to tell you. And oh, by the way, there were 9 governors there from our 50 states, and people have been talking about Japan. The Japanese ambassador had a private gathering at his home right after the Japan embassy held the event at Select USA. And 7 out of 9 governors went to the Japanese ambassador's home, which tells me that Japan is hot right now for recruitment.
We confirmed that yesterday for sure. Cool.
Yeah. So it was good, all around good.
Very good. How is tell us a little bit about the economic development work that you do.
I do international business recruitment, and I meet with various businesses from around the world, and I tell them why Loudoun County is the place to be. Almost always, they don't know anything about Loudoun County except for data centers, if they do know it. So we have a disadvantage because Los Angeles County, New York. I mean, everybody knows them, Silicon Valley, and so it's a sell job based on our location and our IT infrastructure. And how it normally works is that I get to sit down with them. We schedule a visit. They come here to visit. I show them around and introduce them to various business leaders. And if they do choose us, we get them going. I could go on, but I don't want to bore everybody.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Doug, can I ask you a question to Robert?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think we meet you on the Semicon. You were there on the Arizona.
I was.
So I was there on the physically present on Semicon. That is my first one. So hopefully we'll be joining more. We are based in North Carolina, Charlotte, not far away from you. So we are a VC fund manager working with NVIDIA as well as many companies. So we wanted to work with you offline for your IT infrastructure, data center and all. So we have tons of investors. So not here. So yes, I got your contacts. So don't worry, we'll connect. And we know you from that day onwards, 19th February. I remember the date.
That's good memory.
Yeah, I have a little bit of memory. That's why I'm doing this business. So I know you that day. It was busy day.
Okay. Let's keep moving. Appreciate it. You guys connect up. I wanted, especially with Tia in the call. I don't know, Tia, if you can introduce yourself, but we've talked a little bit about consumer products. Bill Edwards kicked off the meeting today, and he's got 50 years of experience taking established brands around the world. There's nobody better in terms of the international side of things. Tia, I don't know whether you can say hi. Let's see.
Hi guys, hold on. Let me get my camera. I gotta fix the light situation. I'll be on in just a second.
Okay. Her expertise in working with consumer brands, I think is really valuable to hear her perspective on what you're seeing. You're advising and helping in that space now. What the purpose of this conversation is really to get different perspectives from around the world in different segments. And you've got a particular expertise on the consumer side. What are you seeing out there right now in trade in the U.S. and beyond?
Well, it's really interesting because what we do is, like Doug said, we help consumer product companies, but also on the international level, we help FMCG companies enter into the US retail markets. And so everything around conversations over the last 60 days has been basically tariffs and how they're affecting global trade. And one of the things that we've seen just with the brands that we've helped and support, it's not necessarily tariffs are going to be the end all be all and you're never going to have an opportunity to enter into US retail markets. They're just getting more creative with how they're doing it. So some brands are actually looking for sourcing manufacturing opportunities stateside. Some are figuring out ways to work with other countries, not exclusive into the US. And so there's a little bit of shifting and changing, but it's going to go back to the basics of anybody that's going to be nimble and be able to pivot quickly is going to end up succeeding.
Yeah, well, the types of companies then that you do, what is it that you're doing for them? Is on the strategy side?
Yeah, so the goal is we have these things stateside where it's almost exclusive to the US retail market where it's called a broker. And so a broker is somebody that says, hey, I've got a relationship with retailer X and I'm happy to facilitate an introduction for you, but in exchange for that, I want you to pay me a retainer fee or I want you to pay me a commission off of whatever I help you get into that retailer. And what we found is you don't actually need brokers. And, brokers don't want to tell you that. Account managers don't want to tell you that. Sometimes even retailers don't like to share that because it's easier for them when they have people that they're able to work with that know what, the process is and how they like business to be conducted. But what we really focus on and educate is strategy on helping brands, international and domestic founders understand how to enter into US retail markets, but do it directly so that they don't have to have additional expenses and costs like broker fees or retainers or, X, Y, and Z. So yes, Doug, it is a lot of strategy. And it's also a lot of education. The goal is that we can fast track the brand so that they can be successful without making a six-figure mistake, which are very, very common when you don't know how the industry operates and runs.
Okay, very cool. So really you're seeing market dynamics of changing of how you get to market, which occurs in every market. Japan used to have 4 to 5 different distributors along the way, and that got cleaned up considerably. And you're cleaning up that for that whole process for consumer brands in the U.S.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
You're based in. Are you in Dallas?
I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tia? There's about 5 people now that I have a better understanding of what you do because of the way you've described it there. Thank you. That's very valuable. There's a few folks that you definitely need to meet up with. One's probably Bill. Bill, have you known Tia before? Did you know Tia?
No, I'd like to connect with you, Tia.
Yeah, that would certainly be one.
I put my my email in the chat, Tia. I'd love to connect with you.
Okay, I don't see it because I think I joined a little bit late. Maybe
it's in the chat up near the top, but I'll put it in again.
And I can connect you too, just to make sure. Double check.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ann Duval is got the Caribbean covered, and thank you for joining as a global advisor. And I didn't understand the fellow that you had recommended for Global Chamber the other day. He did jump into the Tokyo event, and I did ask him at the end to say a few words, but I think he was having some technical problems. So sorry that I might have not been able to get him forward. Ann, is there anything that you would like to share from your perspective in Trinidad and Tobago?
Hello, my name is Anne Duval. I'm living in the Dominican Republic. I'm looking for opportunities because we're working as and I'm looking for opportunities. That's all.
Very good. Yep. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it. I see. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you for joining. Aartii, thank you for joining as well from India. Really thank you for the other day as well. Is there anything, I know we need to work on the export part of what you've sent over, and so I look forward to meeting up with you next week. Anything you'd like to share about India and what's going on from Mumbai and Goa? Oh, you're on
First
mute.
and foremost, hello
There you go.
everyone.
Hi.
I'm from India. I'm Aartii Neemkar. I'm the executive director for the Goa chapter. And I was very keen on understanding and listening to the experts, because we are planning for our members and for the Goa chapter, the export event, and how the scenario is internationally. And for here, I mainly work for the SMEs and MSMEs. So where we help and handle the small entrepreneurs and the startups as well as the SMEs to venture into the global market. So as far as the export scenario is concerned over here, Goa, if I have to talk about Goa, there are a lot of opportunities. There is a lot of scope of growing up. The entrepreneurs are looking to grow. But all over the India, yes, as Mr. Edwards, I was very keen on listening to what he was saying. With all these changing scenario, with the political tariffs and everything, yeah, things are a bit dampened. But I think it will, I mean, it will get around and people will start looking into new ways of doing trade globally. So as I said, Doug, in my email also, we are more keen on understanding from the exports what kind of a support we will get from global chambers if we have to talk about exports and, start introducing to the Goa chapter of how we can do the trade internationally. So yeah, that's how it is from my side.
The discussion about Japan and the foreign direct investment did include India and the amount of increasing foreign direct investment that Japan has in India, and then vice versa. Bill and I work with Gunjan Bagla, who's a member of Global Chamber in LA, but an expert on India, and he's speaking at Global Chamber LA on the 21st. And he just spoke at our export-import forum with Anita Rodal. It was amazing. There's actually that one got put up on the blog. And so if anybody is interested in what's going on in India and the different aspects of the growth opportunities, check out the Global Chamber blog. And the one with Gunjan Bagla, it's, in the last few weeks, he did that one, and it was one of the best ones I've heard.
Hey, Doug, for India, for Japan, they are investing lots of money, as well as Gujarat have a semicon on first week of March. The whole Japan ecosystem are there. I didn't join because of my family responsibility here, but I have a lot of people. I know their chief secretary personally met them. So Japan is now investing tons of money to Gujarat because of, Modi and also. So they are basically buying the whole Gujarat semiconductor ecosystem. So that is the latest update from Gujarat.
Amazing.
Through Japan.
Great information.
Yes.
Thank you, Pankaj. Appreciate it. Do you see the same thing happening, Aartii, from your perspective?
Sorry, come again.
The investment by Japan and India.
Well, what Pankaj mentioned, I have heard about that event, and Shankar had briefed me and invited me for that event, but even I couldn't attend it. But yes, what he's saying is right. Especially in the semiconductor sector, there is a lot of interest, and that particular event, what Pankaj mentioned, was a huge success from the aspect of investments coming from Japan. So yes, that's absolutely right.
So I'll go back to what Bill mentioned in his comment, that the trade around the world is as strong as ever. It's continuing to increase. And I go back to the quote by Kofi Annan that says, arguing against globalization is like arguing against the laws of gravity. Ultimately, gravity wins. And so does globalization. People, and innovative people, creative people, find a way to be successful across borders because there's opportunity, and it advances their success. And ultimately, why we're here is that that happens and it helps the world. Um, uh, is there anybody else? I'd like to go to Bill for some final comments, but does anybody else have any comments that they'd like to share before we close the room? And hearing none, thank you all. Jim, thank you for pulling us together. Bill, any final comments that you'd like to make, please?
Yeah, I wanted to give you all a quote that Doug heard the other night. Making predictions is hard to do, especially about the future. That's from Yogi Berra. Making predictions is hard to do, especially about the future.
We think we know what's happening right now. We try to piece it together. That's why when I introduced Bill, I mentioned about that the world is tricky. There's a lot of things going on, and very rarely are we able to sort through all the different grays to make decisions that are the right balance of success and risk. The smartest person, other than Bill, I think I've ever met is a guy named Bobby Inman, who was the CIA director for the U.S. And I got to listen to him speak twice. And it was very fortunate. And it also reminded me how hard global business is, because he started out by just kind of musing about where to start in his discussion. It seemed like he hadn't had a prepared conversation. He just wanted to share with us his perspective of what's happening in the world right now. So someone said, starting in Northeast Africa. So off he did. He started in Somalia, and he started out by explaining the history and some of the things that are going on there, and the political parties, and where it's headed, and what his perspective is, and the dynamics with other countries. And that was the moment that I realized that global business is hard. Because can you imagine, how many leaders of countries do you know, and the politics of it, and the business markets and the different perspectives? It's said that the US has 14 different cultures, roughly 14 different cultures, basically, or it's been classified that way, which is daunting for people coming into the US. And the same thing happens in other countries. When I lived in Japan for 5 years, and when I traveled to northern Japan, Akita Prefecture in particular, I couldn't understand the Japanese. The language was different, and it was just a whole different perspective. So not only do we have 195 countries, but we have many different flavors within almost every country to deal with, in terms of product interest, in terms of the way people do business. And so because it's hard, being part of the global tribe is important. So Bill, in particular, and all of you, since most of you are members, thank you for your membership and support. Bill, thank you in particular for not just being a member, but being on our advisory board in Los Angeles, and being such a strong supporter of the work that our members do and that we do. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks. And thanks again, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks.